Why real love begins where ego ends, the truth about modern relationships. Picture this: two people fall in love, full of hope and excitement, only to find themselves arguing over the smallest things months later. According to the Gottman Institute, 69% of relationship conflicts are never resolved, not because people don't care, but because they never learned how to deal with their deeper emotional patterns. Relationships may begin as fairy tales, but the real story unfolds when the honeymoon phase ends and reality begins. What happens next isn't failure, it's the invitation to grow. The ancient philosopher Rumi once wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." This timeless wisdom still applies today. Love, when stripped of fantasy, reveals itself not as a constant feeling, but as a dynamic process of self-discovery. Psychologists like Dr. Harriet Lerner argue that most relationship issues aren't about the other person, they're about how we relate to discomfort, fear, and vulnerability. These emotional undercurrents often masquerade as harmless habits or preferences but stem from unhealed insecurities and subconscious patterns. Think of a relationship like a mirror. It doesn't just reflect your beauty, it reveals your blind spots. When partners clash, it's often not because they're incompatible, but because their wounds are colliding. One person's fear of abandonment may trigger the other's fear of being controlled. These egoic patterns can turn affection into attachment and tension into turmoil. But what if every argument was actually a doorway? A chance to pause, reflect, and ask, what part of me feels unseen right now? Or what does my reaction say about my own emotional landscape? The truth is, real intimacy doesn't come from avoiding conflict, it grows from moving through it with courage. That means being radically honest, not just with your partner, but with yourself. Can you admit when you're scared, when you're projecting, or when you're withholding affection out of pride? True connection is built not by perfection but by emotional maturity, trust, and conscious communication. As Brené Brown reminds us, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. If you're ready to stop repeating old cycles and start creating meaningful connection, the first step is inward. Whether you're in a long-term partnership or just starting to explore emotional intimacy, remember, healing relationships starts with healing yourself. Let go of attachment disguised as love. Embrace the discomfort that leads to growth. And choose every day to communicate not to be right, but to be understood. If this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep these transformative ideas flowing. About the author. Young Pueblo, the pseudonym of Diego Perez, is a globally acclaimed writer and speaker whose work centers on inner healing, emotional maturity, and conscious relationships. With more than 1.5 million books sold and translations in over 25 languages, his message has touched readers around the world. He is the best-selling author of Inward, Clarity, and Connection, and Lighter, and continues to inspire a growing community of over 4 million followers through his reflective and transformative insights. Key Takeaway 1: Why self-love is the key to real freedom, the inner work that transforms everything. Have you ever noticed how some of the most successful, outwardly confident people still struggle with anxiety, toxic relationships, or burnout? According to a survey by the American Psychological Association, over 60% of adults feel emotionally unsupported, even when surrounded by others. The truth is, our outer world is a mirror of our inner state, and without a strong foundation of self-love, even the best external achievements can feel hollow. This isn't just modern-day wellness talk, it's ancient wisdom echoing through time. As the philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "He who conquers others is strong, he who conquers himself is mighty." Self-love isn't about indulgence or ego, it's about emotional honesty and inner alignment. At its core, it means being brave enough to sit with your wounds without judgment. Think of it like tending a garden. You can't grow vibrant flowers if you're unwilling to clear the weeds. This kind of radical self-care begins with one essential act: honesty. Are you checking in with yourself regularly? Do you acknowledge your feelings without brushing them aside? These inner check-ins are like emotional GPS signals, they tell you where you are and guide you to where you need to go. Without self-love, your relationships become fragile reflections of your unhealed parts. Imagine building a house on a cracked foundation. It might look good from the outside, but stress will eventually break it down. Similarly, if you seek love while feeling unworthy or unresolved inside, you'll attract emotional patterns that echo that instability. Ask yourself, are you loving others with your whole self, or just the parts you feel are acceptable? Deep connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability begins with self-acceptance. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or partners, aren't just sources of joy, they're spiritual teachers. They test your patience, surface your fears, and challenge your ego. But if you approach them with wisdom, they also help you evolve. Love isn't about controlling others or demanding perfection, it's about accepting the imperfect with grace. The real test of emotional maturity is learning to respond to conflict with calmness, curiosity, and compassion. As author Young Pueblo puts it, true love is not about perfection, it's about acceptance and growth. So what's the call to action here? Begin where all transformation starts, within. Embrace the hard questions. Practice honesty without self-judgment. And most of all, treat yourself with the kind of care you've long hoped to receive from others. Self-love isn't a destination, it's a daily practice that quietly rewires your life. Key takeaway 2. Letting go of attachment, why real love needs freedom to grow. Imagine clinging so tightly to someone you love that you accidentally suffocate the very bond you're trying to protect. It's a paradox far too many relationships fall into, mistaking attachment for closeness. According to relationship experts, emotional overdependence is one of the top causes of romantic burnout. Why? Because when attachment masquerades as love, it fuels fear, control, and insecurity, leaving little room for real connection to breathe. As Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. The key difference lies in freedom versus fear. Closeness fosters intimacy through trust and openness, while attachment stems from anxiety and a desperate need to keep things from changing. Life, however, is constant motion. Trying to freeze a relationship in time is like trying to hold onto water. Eventually, it slips through your fingers. Think of two trees growing side by side. When rooted in freedom, they grow tall and strong, their branches brushing gently, never strangling one another. When relationships are built on attachment, even minor changes feel like threats. Do you ever find yourself resisting your partner's growth? Or fearing that their transformation might pull them away from you? These reactions often stem from attachment, not love. True love honors individuality, celebrating evolution instead of resisting it. Picture a loving partner not as someone who stays the same forever, but as someone who supports your becoming, just as you support theirs. The danger of attachment is that it replaces connection with control. It demands certainty in a world built on change. But here's the hard truth, people grow, dreams shift, and needs evolve. Trying to stop that natural process causes frustration, resentment, and emotional distance. Love built on freedom, however, adapts and flows. It allows each person to be their full self, even when that self is changing. Ask yourself, are you holding space for your partner's growth, or holding them back out of fear? In the end, attachment is love's greatest enemy, not because it lacks feeling, but because it refuses to let love breathe. If you want a thriving, long-lasting relationship, learn to let go. Choose trust over control. Choose growth over fear. And most importantly, choose love that liberates, not love that confines. Key takeaway 3. How to turn conflict into connection, the secret to healthy relationships. We've all been there, a simple disagreement spirals into a heated argument, and suddenly you're questioning the entire relationship. But here's a powerful truth, conflict doesn't mean you're incompatible, it means you're both human. According to psychologist Dr. John Gottman, it's not whether couples fight, but how they fight that predicts long-term success. In fact, conflicts, when handled intentionally, can become the very moments that strengthen intimacy and trust. Think of conflict like weight training for your relationship. Resistance isn't the enemy, it's what builds emotional muscle. But when we act out of our survival brain, conflict feels like danger. We either shut down or fight to win. So how do we break that cycle? By pausing. By taking one conscious breath before reacting, you reclaim control from your reflexes and choose healing over harm. This small moment of awareness becomes a bridge, not a wall. Every relationship brings two egos shaped by different pasts, and these egos don't always play nicely. One partner might fear abandonment, while the other avoids confrontation at all costs. Sound familiar? But maturity means recognizing these patterns, not being ruled by them. When both people commit to emotional growth, arguments become conversations, not battlegrounds. As Maya Angelou wisely said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. So how do you do better? Start with selfless listening, the kind where your goal isn't to defend, but to understand. When you truly tune in, something magical happens, your partner feels seen. Validating their experience, even if you don't fully agree, builds trust. And when both partners feel heard, tension melts into connection. It's not about whose version of the truth wins, but about creating a shared reality together. At the heart of every strong relationship is this mindset: connection over ego, compassion over control. Disagreements are inevitable, but how you handle them is a choice. So next time you argue, take a breath, soften your stance, and step into empathy. Key takeaway 4. How to let go of ego and build a stronger relationship. Why do so many loving relationships fall apart over the smallest misunderstandings? The answer lies in one powerful force we often overlook: the ego. It's the internal voice designed to protect us, but in relationships, that self-defense mechanism can become a silent saboteur. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This couldn't be truer when it comes to love. Unless you become aware of your ego, it will quietly turn your relationship into a battleground instead of a partnership. Imagine wearing glasses that distort everything you see, turning a friendly comment into a criticism or a loving suggestion into an attack. That's the ego at work. It filters reality through the lens of fear and self-preservation, making you feel attacked even when you're safe. When two people bring their egos into a disagreement, they stop seeing each other as allies and start defending territory. But what if you could take off those distorted glasses and see your partner clearly again? Breaking free from ego doesn't mean becoming passive, it means becoming intentionally open. Vulnerability becomes your superpower. It allows you to say, "Maybe I misunderstood," or "Let's figure this out together." Real growth begins when you acknowledge that your emotions don't always reflect objective truth. When you stop clinging to your viewpoint as the truth, you make room for connection instead of conflict. True love flourishes not when one person dominates, but when both co-create the relationship. From choosing what to cook for dinner to deciding where to live, sharing decisions reinforces equality and trust. In fact, shared power is one of the most underrated signs of a healthy relationship. When you invite your partner into the decision-making process, you say, "I respect your voice as much as mine." That's not just love, that's maturity. So, ask yourself, are you loving from the heart, or from the ego? The difference can make or break your bond. Letting go of ego isn't easy, but it's essential. When you choose compassion over control and vulnerability over defensiveness, you lay the foundation for a relationship that's not only strong but deeply fulfilling. Key takeaway 5. The secret to real love: growth without losing yourself. Imagine being in a relationship where you never have to wear a mask, where your quirks aren't just tolerated but embraced, and your struggles aren't judged but supported. According to a recent study published in Psychological Science, people in emotionally secure relationships are more likely to pursue personal growth goals and experience greater life satisfaction. This is the power of unconditional acceptance in love. As the poet Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." True love doesn't demand perfection, it offers the safety to grow through your imperfections. Think of a relationship as a greenhouse. You are the plant, and love is the climate. In a healthy relationship, the conditions support your growth, but never force it. When a partner tries to reshape you into someone else, they're not loving you, they're loving a fantasy. Change that's inspired by pressure doesn't stick. Real transformation takes root when it's self-driven and supported, not forced. Personal evolution, like any living process, requires sunlight, time, and room to stretch, especially when overcoming deep-seated patterns. So ask yourself, are you growing because you feel loved? Or are you changing out of fear of losing that love? This is the core distinction between real love and conditional affection. Real love creates a secure base, a launch pad where your energy shifts from survival mode to self-actualization. When you feel fully accepted, you're free to focus on healing old wounds and developing new strengths. This inner work doesn't just benefit your relationship, it echoes into every area of your life, your career, your friendships, your purpose. Relationships aren't just emotional playgrounds, they're transformational classrooms. In loving someone and being loved well, you practice essential human skills: empathy, patience, self-regulation. Think of how managing a disagreement with a partner teaches you to handle conflicts at work, or how truly listening to their perspective sharpens your emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence cultivated in relationships becomes a tool set for a better life. Love, then, becomes less about romantic ideals and more about deep personal expansion. In the end, true love doesn't demand that you become someone new, it nurtures the best of who you already are. When love meets you where you are and walks with you toward who you want to become, that's where magic happens. Remember, you are not loved for your potential, you are loved because you are already enough. In summary, love isn't about perfection, it's about presence. In How to Love Better, young Pueblo invites us to look inward, reminding us that the foundation of any meaningful relationship is the relationship we have with ourselves. Through poetic wisdom and psychological insight, he explores how healing our emotional past is the first step to building deeper, more fulfilling connections with others. True love begins within, and this book is a guide to nurturing that inner sanctuary. One of the book's most powerful messages is that self-love is not self-indulgence, it's self-liberation. Young Pueblo emphasizes that facing your emotional wounds with honesty allows you to break free from cycles of pain and fear. Practicing radical self-awareness and acceptance gives you the strength to be vulnerable without losing yourself. The more you understand and care for your own heart, the more capable you are of loving others without clinging, controlling, or projecting. Pueblo also explains the difference between attachment and authentic closeness. While attachment is driven by fear and insecurity, genuine love respects each partner's individuality and freedom. Healthy love grows in space, not in restriction. Letting go of the need to control allows both people to evolve, together and independently. As he puts it, freedom and love are intertwined. Where one thrives, the other blossoms. Conflicts, he explains, are not signs of failure but invitations to grow. Arguments become destructive when the ego leads, but they become bridges when approached with compassion and maturity. Pueblo encourages readers to pause before reacting, practice selfless listening, and replace ego-driven defense with intentional understanding. In this mindset, love becomes a skill, something you choose, refine, and grow. The book also dives deep into the ego's role in relationships. Our ego seeks self-protection, often at the cost of intimacy. Pueblo shows us that surrendering the need to be right opens the door to authentic dialogue and deeper connection. Letting go of control isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Love thrives when we co-create our lives with shared responsibility and mutual respect. Personal growth is another cornerstone of Pueblo's message. He shares that real love accepts you as you are, but also inspires you to become your highest self. A healthy relationship offers the safety and encouragement needed to heal old wounds and embrace change. When you're loved well, your energy shifts from self-protection to self-expansion. Your partner becomes not a fixer of flaws but a mirror reflecting your potential. Ultimately, How to Love Better is about evolving both as an individual and as a partner. Relationships are not destinations but journeys, ongoing opportunities to practice patience, empathy, and presence. This book is not just a meditation on romantic love, it's a roadmap to emotional freedom, self-awareness, and lasting intimacy. Love, when grounded in honesty and growth, becomes the most transformative force in our lives. If this message resonates with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more soulful insights. Let's spread the message of healing, growth, and real love, together. And if no one told you lately, remember this: you are loved, you are worthy, and you are spectacularly capable of extraordinary things.